Thanks, Ken. Thank you, gentlemen. It's nice to see Ken back after back. I didn't intend that, but it just came out that way. I have a question, and please just shout out when you're ready if you have an answer to this, because I often wonder if your brain works similar to my brain, or if I'm so out there somewhere that it's really, I'm just alone in a field, trapped in this world that I've created. So, when you hear order, creating order in your life, what do you think of? Chaos, okay, thank you. Confusion, housekeeping. Looking after details, what was that? First things first. Organized. Prayer. Spiritual. Scheduling. Painting. Okay, I always think of the garage myself, but maybe it's because I've had a lifetime of a garage in disarray that I figure if I can get that in order, that's great. Thank you. The reason I ask that is because in the world of Unity, there is the idea of order. And there is, we can look at that and go creating orderly fashion in things. Like, for example, if you're going to plan a trip, there's an orderly way to do that where it can be successful. If you're going to set up a picnic or a party, there's an orderly way that we can do that. And I know for me, when I think of order, I often think of the external world and the things that I'm doing. And in Unity, it's much more about a spiritual order of how do we manage our lives, how do we run things, how do we actually take that truth within us, which I believe we all have, our own inner truth. How do we actually take that and apply that to our lives? And that's what the power of order can do for us in the spiritual realm. And so if we look at the 12 powers of Unity, which the Fillmores, Charles and Myrtle, the co-founders of Unity, came up with, order is that idea of creating from divine mind to ideas to expression. So let's just look at those three things. So the divine mind is that thinking stuff, right? Like, we don't know where our thoughts, our ideas come from, right? We don't know how all of this stuff was created. We have cameras, we have technology, you have a chair. I know I've brought up the chair before, and if our knees bent the other way, what would that look like? I'm still trying to figure that out myself. But we have all this technology that we use. We have all these things in the world that are created, and we don't really know where those ideas come from. They just come to people. And you may know this in your own life when you're having a struggle with something, when you're in a conversation, something might come out of you that was completely unexpected. A truth per se that maybe you live into that. It's like, wow, that's actually how I truly feel. But we're not really sure where those come from. And that is that idea of divine ideas, or the substance. Or if you think of the book, The Science of Getting Rich, that thinking stuff from which all things are made. And so one of the things we want to do is get into that space of divine mind. That is the spiritual realm that we can operate in. And there's times where we might have to go into the silence, right? Where we just have to shut out. Anybody ever have to shut out the outside world? Just stop the noise. Life is lifing me too much right now, and I need to stop. Can I get off this merry-go-round, please? Somebody make it stop. And then there's other times where we can actually just be in that space even while we're doing something. So for me, for example, I try to prepare as much as I can for Sunday. I listen to things, I read things, I am constantly putting stuff into my head. And then when I get up here, I just want to let it all go. And whatever comes out is whatever comes out in the moment. And I have a bunch of notes here, and I might refer to them, but really what I'm really hoping to do is get myself in that place of speaking what feels true to me in the moment. And there's some great things that Charles Fillmore and Myrtle did, which was they had the Unity, their belief system, their faith, which they had written out. And at the end of it, Charles put in that he reserved the right to change this on any given day, that this would unfold and shift as time went on. And there's actually a scripture in the Bible around that this dogma of religion, this idea of thinking that there's a way to do this, is actually not the right approach. That to be open to the divine ideas, to be open to spirit, to be open to that is really the best way to operate, that there's no set way we need to be. Because what's going to happen in our lives, and maybe you've experienced this, is things change. Does anybody here still think exactly as they did when they were a teenager? That's a good one. Someone said, how about yesterday? Yeah, does anybody here that thinks the same way they did yesterday? And yes, we do have some young people here, so they're probably still thinking as a teenager because that's where they're at. But I know for me, there's stuff I adopted as a teenager that I believed were to be truths, and I've since looked at those and gone, well, maybe those aren't so true anymore. So the way Jesus put this, if I can find it here, and I might not, do not dogmatize in creed or statement of being as a governing rule of thought and action for those who join your organization. This is from Fillmore. These things are limitations, and they often prevent free development because of foolish insistence on consistency. The creed that you write today may not fit the viewpoint of tomorrow. Hence, the safe and sure religious foundation for all people is that laid down by Jesus. The Spirit of truth shall guide you in all the truth. The Spirit of truth shall guide you in all the truth. So it's really, that sounds to me like tuning in, right, to the moment. Not funneled, thank you. Not the blinders on, but tuning in to where you are. And that can be preceded by intention. Like you can have an intention that you then want to kind of let go and let happen, right? Or as some people in Unity would say, let go and let God. So as always, the best thing I can do is give an example from my own experience that has helped me. So recently, as you all may know, we took one of our daughters to Michigan to go to university. And the rules of the world would say, and it's funny to me because whenever I talk about this, people think that I need some advice on it, and I don't, but thank you for anybody that wants to give me advice on how to manage this. In advance, I'll just say thank you, but I'm pretty good at where I'm at with it. But the rules of the rules of the world would say that going into that, oh, it's going to be hard, and it's going to be emotional, and you're going to have to say goodbye, and there's going to be tears and sadness and all of those things. And yes, that's probably true. And so I thought about this a lot, and I thought, I've done all this spiritual work and stuff with Unity. I'll just call it stuff. That's what it feels like sometimes, a big suitcase of stuff. I've done all this, so what can I lean into here? Like, what could serve me in this moment? And so I thought about it, and I thought, I'm going to go into this fully present to the joy that is this opportunity, not only for her, but for us as a family and for whatever's going to come in the future from it. And I'm going to live each day while I'm there, just trying to enjoy and be enthusiastic about what we're doing every day. We were there for 10 days, and there was all of this stuff to acclimatize not only her, but us as a family to this experience of her living on campus and us being far away. We were part of the international students. I know, it's like Canada and the US, and we're international, but But there were a lot of international students there that English is a second language for them. So we were put into that group of people, and I'm grateful for it. But back to the story is I chose that I'm going to just live into the joy every day and fully be present to what we get to do and what we get to experience. And when it's time to say goodbye, that's when I'll live that moment. I am not going to live that moment every day like the oncoming doom of the day of saying goodbye. And I'll tell you, that was the best thing I ever could have done for myself. Because I got to experience being in Michigan. I got to experience my family. I got to experience the moving in and the incredible amount of consumerism and shopping we did to fill her dorm room. And I had to let go of all of that money that had flowed in and was now flowing out. It was so beautiful to see that just go out of the bank account every moment of that Sunday and that Saturday and that Monday as we spent money on, we need a shelf. Really? We need a shelf, do we? Yeah, we need a shelf. Okay, we'll get a shelf. That's fine. I'll just breathe through this. It's, yes. Yeah, if we're going to spend money on a shelf, I mean, come on. The point is that I did myself a huge favor by not living that the world might have said, friend. I mean, instead I chose incredible opportunity. When it was time to say goodbye, I chose nothing. And so when I love you and kept quiet and stood in the emotion and just absorbed, and it was great. Time to say goodbye, and like she pulled away, I was ready to go. I was like, it's time to get in the car. We got an early flight tomorrow. I'm good. The other thing was, and just for those that want to set this up in the future or maybe have to experience this in the future, plan 10 days in Michigan home. So I was actually ready to go home as it was. So it was like, I'm saying goodbye. It's this moment. But man, I can't wait to get back to my house and my bed. Like that was actually a saving. I want to pinpoint on this is the feeling into based on all of this understanding of these learned through Unity, how I can have an worthy of my life. What we want is worthy of our lives. It's every moment of every day that's worthy of our life. Do that is to be present. To be present. to what is right now. See, when we landed in Grand Rapids, makes no sense, right? Right now there's football on. There might be people, but you're here. So then go be present. The idea is that doesn't happen. Days number one, we can all, and comes the idea about this, it was like, how could I be? Actually just be present and live the joy. So I chose that. And then I went out, expressed that, and lived that in my life. That's the 3 simple ways of being. This is right for me, right? And it's hard sometimes because we might then go to that place of, well, what are my friends going to think? Or what's that person going to say? Or how are they going to act? Right? So then we might back off a little and get a little scared to be that person. But when we settle in that choice, then what there is to do next is to be it in the world. We to 5 principles. I act simple of an orderly way of living our lives. On the spiritual realm, it's like you can't, when I think about this, it's like I can't clean the garage without starting to clean the garage, right? I actually have to start. The mental capacity, I have to put myself in that place of wanting to do that, of wanting to tackle that, motivating myself. It's the same kind of principle. It's just not spiritual. I don't know. Cooking is kind of spiritual. So we want to open ourselves up. We want to allow that flow, that peace to come into us. And then we want to take that and act. So that's the process. And here's how the easiest way to do this is that I find is to pray and meditate, to live in that space, to have a planned commitment to do it the planned time. I just have a point every single this part of my life. Works on the trails and just being in the forest. This morning from Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning. Anybody read that? Yeah, it's pretty heavy. To live in the suffering. I think that is allowing ourselves to experience whatever it is. And so even when I think of the trip to Michigan, there was going to be some suffering in there at some point. The letting go for me, that allowing myself to let something go and be on its own journey. But we have to allow that to unfold. We have to be willing to experience that and live in it. And then we don't know what we're going to get from it. And I know for me, I've come back maybe a better father, a better person, stronger in my convictions from having that experience. I was really nervous about coming up here today because it feels like when I don't do this for like a couple of weeks, I then go into this place of, I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy to do this. Oh my gosh, I've forgotten everything. What am I gonna say? And I forget that I can just trust and I can allow myself to just be in the moment and be present. So maybe I'll close with this, that because I think this is important in this idea of spiritual divine mind, of order, of creating order in our lives. And it's Jesus is asked, which is the greatest commandment in the law? And he replies, love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. And the second is like it. Love your neighbor as yourself. All the law and the prophets hang on these two commandments. So I was thinking about that. And just try this out. I don't know, like I've been playing with this idea since sort of writing that down and looking at it. I know I've looked at it before, but this idea of loving the Lord your God with all your heart and all your mind and all your soul. And so what does that mean? And if we believe that the kingdom of God is within us, right? If that's actually here, not out there somewhere, but resides in us, then to love that with all our heart and soul and mind is to love ourselves, right? Is to bring that within, to be living and loving our lives and our experience and what we get to do, whether it's painful at times or whether it's joyful at times. That's what we get to do. And so then the next one is to love your neighbor as yourself. Well, if the first commandment is here and setting that up within ourselves, then how could we truly love somebody else if we don't know how to love ourselves first? And it's a question. I'm not saying it's that way or not that way, but really, when you think about it, if you can't love yourself to that level, how could you truly allow that to be experienced with somebody else? It has to begin, in my mind, it has to begin here. It has to begin with loving all three parts of us, our mind, our bodies, our spiritual or our soul, to embrace those equally. And that's where you can see that maybe the Fillmores, they had a very strict diet. They had a way of living that encompassed their body, that took all of that in, that there was a way of being that was all about loving yourself and then expressing that to others and sharing that with others. And don't you feel good when you do that? When you are able to truly love and give to somebody else? But the best way, in my mind, is to know it here. If you know it here first, and it's not, oh, I'm great. That's not what I'm talking about. It's that loving our life, right? Really, really loving it and being fully invested